there's not been a glut of coverage, sort of in English speaking media of the acquisition and the subsequent rise up the leagues. But in their promotion from Serie C, I think it was in 2018-19, they signed 25 players in a single season, and then they signed an additional 15 in the 2019-20. And it's, I mean, to the naked eye, it just seems as though, unless you're buying absolutely, undisputably the best players, it seems like a great deal of upheaval. So I think a lot of the credit must go to Cristian Brocchi, who, of course, used to play for Galliani and Berlusconi's Milan 15, 20 years ago. Who is the manager at Monza now, who clearly has managed to wield some sort of cohesion between these players who are flitting in and out of the club. Many of whom are on loan, many of whom are very young and very inexperienced in their careers, which of course we'll get onto. But I mean, what's sort of your understanding of Brocchi's role in Monza?
Yeah, I think great credit has to go to him in that regard. I mean, it is the Serie B template is very much to have quite a sizable in and out transfer set of operations. It is not uncommon for Serie B clubs to have a mix of kind of gnarled old pros that have done it at that level consistently for a period of time, plus a load of prospects that they can get on loan from Serie A clubs, because Serie A does tend to kind of hoard its young talent in terms of contracts, but then repetitively loan them out. So the model is perhaps not an unusual one. It's maybe just a slightly exaggerated one. And obviously there are a couple of, you've mentioned Balotelli, you've mentioned Prince Boateng as well. These are players that have operated at a higher level and probably still could do. And so there's an interesting kind of addition there. I think what impressed me particularly with Brocchi is that so I had a quick look. They've used 22 players in their last 5 games, which is quite a lot. And I don't think it's necessarily because of injuries and enforced absences and so on. But what he's done tactically is he's built a system where if you watch them play, they have a pretty consistent style, home and away, with a few tweaks between those two. But they're very settled in their 4-3-3. The same sort of runs tend to be made irrespective of who the players are. Obviously, different players bring different little sparkles to that, but he's built a cohesive system, and that allows him, I think, to drop players in and out, to rotate, to keep people fresh and keep people interested without necessarily sacrificing the overall tactical approach of the side, which is really smart coaching.
Yeah, and clearly it's worked, because you just look at the sort of the last couple of results that Monza have had. I think it's 4 games they're unbeaten without conceding a goal. I think it's the most miserly defense in Serie B this season, if I'm not mistaken, or at least when I did the research for the pod, that's what they were. But they do seem, I know what you mean, they do seem cohesive, and I don't want to say sort of structured. Settled is probably the best way of saying it, as you mentioned there, in their formation and sort of in the sense of who makes those runs. You'll have those players who do, obviously, as you say, bring the different nuance to different phases of play. But yeah, absolutely, I think it's no fluke that they are where they are in the table, and I implore anybody to try and explain to me the complicated promotion relegation system between Serie A and Serie B, mostly Serie B, in terms of the top, I believe it's the top 2 go up, and then between 3rd and 8th, if there is a gap of something like 10 to 15 points between 3rd and 4th, the 3rd go up automatically. And then there's lots of different ramifications between the different points tallies. It's all a bit complex. But, at the moment, they do stand a fair chance of sort of going up to Serie A for the first time, which of course would be sweet vindication for Galliani and Berlusconi's investment, of which there's been around 10 million euros spent sort of this season alone. And they're not messing around in the winter transfer window either. I think they've already added 2 players, Scossarella and Federico Ricci, I believe. I mean, they're not under 23, so we won't go into too much depth, but they clearly believe in this model that they're employing. And I suppose part of that model comes the likes of KPB and Balotelli, who scored a goal 4 minutes into his debut against Salernitana, I believe.